Generation 2 of Transformers, an attempt to reignite interest in the line after declining sales of G1 in the Micromaster and Pretender eras, and Action Masters. Let's not forget those. A lot of the early G2 were merely recolors and almost reissues, but with different gimmicks, of original G1 characters. In fact, my recollection, and I've told this story before, is that I went into a store, I saw a Generation 2 toy, I looked at it, it was a Swindle, and I'm like, I have the original Swindle, which is in much better colors. Why am I gonna get this? But I didn't realize they would come up with a lot of different additional Transformers. I did read the Generation 2 comic book, and even some of the recolors turned out to be pretty damn cool. So in this video, we're gonna go over 5 homages to the G2 line, because over the years, it has grown in popularity and taken its place in the pantheon of Transformers. Okay, that's slightly dramatic, but G2 is now looked upon fondly. And so I got 5 Transformers that aren't exactly G2, but are homages to the original. Now, if you're new to the channel, I'm Captain Kyle. Welcome aboard. If you've been watching for a while, thanks for coming back. That's really awesome. And this is Leo, aka Leo Prime. I mean, I didn't name him Leo. I took him from someone who could no longer take care of this cat. And you guys named him Leo Prime. So there we go. And now you can't see his face, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll pop up again at some point. So let's do this. 5 homages to G2 characters. And as you're looking at the rear end of the cat, be right back. So the first Transformer I want to talk about is G2 Jazz. Now this one actually came out in 2012. He was in a 4-pack. With him was Combat Hero Optimus Prime, who was based on a G2 toy that was actually never released, at least not to the general public. He also had unaltered Legends-size Thundercrackers, and it's called Motor Breath. Apparently they couldn't call this toy Motor Master because of copyright reasons, trademark reasons, something. They lost the trademark, so they called him Motor Breath. That's something I thought Morning Breath was bad. But this Jazz is actually based on a previously released mold, the Reveal the Shield, which had come out earlier, and actually had rub signs at the time. But this one was done up in G2 Deco, except for the fact that he still has a G1 Autobot symbol right there on his chest. It's not the G2. That's unfortunate, but that's what they did. And of course, Jazz being one of the most popular G1 characters, he was a pretty popular G2 character. And in addition to his normal gun, he actually, I believe he came with one of those weird missile launcher things. And oddly, because he didn't have the over-the-shoulder missile launcher, and oddly, he actually did also have a G1 Autobot symbol on him. It might have been a sticker. It's been a while since I've had that. It went in the purge. But this particular G2 Jazz, I'm sure it had a little stamp with a G2 Autobot symbol, like most of them at the time. But then they did this homage that came in the 4-pack. And of course, it's not die-cast like the original, but it does have some superior posability. So just to go over the deco a little bit, he does have very shiny headlights in blue. He does have light piping that comes from the back of his head to make his eyes glow blue, which is nice because blue is supposed to be the Autobot color. And he comes this one with just this gun, which actually folds up so that it can be stored in his vehicle mode. Kinda. It's been a while. But let's go over some posability on this guy before we jump into the next one. And he could almost, and I reiterate almost, do a full toes up Jean-Claude Van Damme. The reason I say almost is if you look at his butt, which, you know, don't stare too long or you'll be labeled a perv, Logan, you can see that he can't quite go straight across. It's just the way his connectors were built, it can't quite do that. Now this was the days before ankle swivels, so he doesn't actually have those. It would be nice, but he does not. He can kick forward, though not super high. Kicking back is not really possible. I mean, he can kick back his leg like that in case he was getting kissed, but unless you move the roof, and even then, it still gets in the way, so it doesn't go very high as a back kick. Side kick, pretty good height. If he does both legs, he can get quite up there. And he does bend at the knee. In fact, he bends backwards at the knee, which is not very helpful, but his knees are almost double jointed, so they can go a little bit more than 90 degrees. But because of all the kibble here, you can't like bend the leg over. Twisting at the waist, let's see here. We may need to pulled back slightly, but he can twist at the waist as long as you pull this back piece away. Now, you can have it back like this all the time. I think that looks fine. You can also push it so that it's flush against his back. So really up to you, but in order to do the twist, like he did last summer, you need to have it pulled away. Now his arms here are constrained, so you can't bring them all the way around. He can put his arm forward, put it down, and it's blocked by the doors, so you can't really get past that. He does bend at the elbow, and he does have a swivel. The elbow bend does not quite reach 90 degrees, but I'm not going to quibble. The hands don't twist, they actually move in a little bit. That's part of the transformation. The head itself will turn all the way around. Woohoo! And like the Reveal the Shield version, he also has speakers. So these speakers are kind of reminiscent of his G1 cartoon persona, where he had these speakers. It's transparent plastic, so I'm being kind of careful. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to extend them fully. Well, that one seems to go without a problem. This one's a little stuck. I'm going to wiggle it just a little bit, but hope it doesn't break. Okay. Did not break, but it made a very alarming snapping noise. But he could bring these speakers over his doors and play some really rockin' tunes and sonically blast the Decepticons. So that is an additional feature that was in the Reveal the Shield, and they carried it over to his G2 counterpart. And I'm gonna put that back in place, again carefully, because it is transparent plastic, and I would prefer not to destroy my G2 Homages. So there he is. I'm gonna give another spin on the Turntable of Doom, and let's put him into his vehicle mode. Keep in mind this toy is 14 years old, which in human years is a lot. So there is G2 Jazz in his vehicle mode, and he does appear to be some kind of Porsche. I don't know if it's a real Porsche or just reminiscent of a Porsche. I have no idea what the licensing deals were at that time, nor am I a car guy. I'm a robot guy. But he looks, again, reminiscent of the G2 with that type of deco. And of course, a lot of the G2s identify themselves, which doesn't make for good robots in disguise, but his on the spoiler says Jazz. A different number, of course, he's got the number 1 on him, which I guess it's nice to consider Jazz number 1 in his field. Now, underneath, the weapon actually stores underneath the hood, so that is a nice feature, so that if you do like to display your Transformers in vehicle mode, you can be rest assured, as long as you put it there, that his weapon is safe and contained. You don't have to put it somewhere else. All right, he's got wheels. We're gonna do a roll test. Not bad. Not as smooth as some G1s, but still not bad. So that is the first one that I wanted to show you, an homage to the G2 Jazz. All right, next on our list actually goes back a few years to 2008. He was called Skyfall, which I think James Bond's, intellectual property owners might have a problem with that. But apparently Skyjack, which was his original name in G2, as an itty-bitty Cyberjet, was not considered a good name at the time. I mean, after 9/11, things like that were probably considered not the best. Oh, he stands 9 3/4 inches if you count from the tip. If you count from his head, he's a tad over 8 inches. Much larger than the original, probably about 3.5 inch Cyberjet, which I have somewhere. I just don't know where at the moment, which is one of the problems when I'm trying to reorganize my collection into chronological order. If I can't find all the chronological things, it's kind of difficult, but we'll figure it out. Find them eventually. Again, 2008, and he actually was a repaint of, from that same year, the 2008 Silverbolt. Silverbolt being the leader of the aerial box, but this version of the mold unable to merge with any other vehicles into a giant robot. So Skyjack, being a Decepticon, looks pretty cool. Spinning him on the Turntable of Doom, you can see he's got Decepticon symbols. Now again, these Decepticon symbols are G1, which again, it's an homage, but it's a shame that they didn't give him G2 Decepticon symbols. That would have been nice. He does have a handheld gun / missile launcher, which fires pretty well. Woof, almost lost that one. And he has electronics. Makes machine gun noises. And there will be more noises later. But his color scheme matches that of the Cyberjet for the most part. You can see he looks like Silverbolt in the face. They did use this for like a Darkwing or Darkwind whatever they called him to avoid copyright infringement. One of the Power Master Decepticon brothers, and this may have been featured in a repaint video, but now he's being featured into an homage video. So reusing, recycling, it's good for the planet. So a very sturdy figure. Again, no ankle swivels, but this one, if I recall correctly, can without any issue fall on his back. Without any issue do a full toes up Jean-Claude Van Damme. Well, part of the issue is his wings kind of hit the ground below his legs, so he ends up leaning forward, but he still can do the pose. And I'm thinking that the silver button has to go into the back, so probably my ADHD fans are like, no, you got one of the legs reversed. Okay, it's fixed now. It's fixed, right? Yep, it's fixed. So he can kick forward, decent height. Kicking back is kind of blocked by, again, his wings. But he can kick really high with a side kick. In fact, so high as a split side kick that he could kick behind him. He looks like a gymnast showing them exactly what he can do. He does have knees, which bend more than 90 degrees. In fact, could keep going, except there's stuff in the way. And he does have swivels on his legs. Now, as far as twisting at the waist, that ain't happening. That's not the way this one has been designed. And his arms, well, you can bring them all the way up, but there's no way it's going all the way around. Just isn't gonna happen. And same thing going down, but you can stick his arm, he can go way out to the side. He does have an elbow and a swivel that could go further if it weren't for his wings. The fists do not twist, and the head does turn all the way around. So overall, a solid figure, more posability than a lot of G1s. However, I don't know, maybe the head didn't turn on, or maybe it did on the original Skyjack. Well, he probably has similar amounts of articulation, just without quite so many ball joints. All right, so one more spin on the turntable of Doom, and we shall transform him. And in this case, I'm going to show you how to transform him, because that also will give us some electronics. So I just straightened out his feet and pushed in his heels. I am also folding in his fists. They push down and fold like so. Now I'm going to move his legs out. I'm going to move his arms out of the way so I can take care of the leg part, which you basically swivel out and then you bring up like so. But as you can see, they're not able to meet in the middle. So you got to pull this down or push down on the head, and then you can push them the rest of the way in. And you can push the legs together like so. His arms, I have them pointed out to the side. We are going to turn them so at the swivel point so that they look like little shovels going out to the side. We're going to bring them in and we're going to plug them in to the wings like so. And then take the nose cone, straighten it out, and then this button becomes engines and guns. You flip up his tail fins. Now what's interesting, I'm going to partially de-transform him just for a second, because when push the head up, you hear the transforming sound and his eyes light up. There we go. That's what I was looking for before when I pushed his head down, but it did not give me the sound for whatever reason, but this time it did. So he's a cool looking jet. He does have some fake, well, they are wheels, but his landing gear I don't think rolls too well. You can open up these at his chest. You have landing gear there and here, and we'll put him on the turntable of Doom and zoom in to get a better look at his deco. As you can see, he is a nice red and black jet. He does have the Decepticon symbols here and FB129, which I have no idea what that stands for. If you know, please put it in the comments. I would love to know what FB129 stands for. Maybe it was a catalog number that they used back in G2. Nice rubber chipped nose, so you can't necessarily stab anyone with them. And just the jet noises, and it switches between, and then you also have the electronic lights. So these are guns. Speaking of guns, his gun can actually go here underneath and can still be fired by the trigger underneath there. Now he's just got landing gear. We'll try a roll test. Why not? Actually, better than some. So he can tack you down the runway and take off, or he could be like a real Decepticon and just be in robot mode, jump in the air and transform in midair and take off like that. Well, a much larger version than the original, but a great homage to Skyjack. That's number 2. Now our next one is much more recent. Well, it's 7 years ago, but it was from the Autobot Alpha Strike Counterforce. And he was called Covert Clone Sideswipe. But as you can see, he is in G2 colors, so he is an homage to that. I don't want to hear any different. He's definitely an homage to G2 Sideswipe. And this is one of the most popular molds to come out of Siege, was used a bunch of times. Just like the original, he has a G1 Autobot symbol on his chest. There's probably some G2 Autobot symbols you probably get from, I don't know, maybe a place like Toy Hacks, just throwing that out there. But he definitely has the look. He's called Covert Clone Sideswipe, but, you know, I like to think of him as just G2. His weapon, if you're not familiar with this mold, then I'm very, very sorry. Can split in two. You can put on his shoulder the missile launcher. Doesn't have a missile in it. And then you can put the gun in his hand, or you can stick the gun here and just have it as a shoulder weapon entirely. And for those who have just gotten the brand new Devastation Sideswipe, it's pretty much the same mold. But let's go through some articulation, some posability, and see what he can do. And he can do full toes up, down, climb down, not a problem. He does have ankle swivels. He is a newer mold, so they're actually quite generous, so he can really get down and boogie. Kicking forward, not a problem. In fact, he's kind of got double jointed knees, so he can kick even higher. Kicking back, straight back, not bad. Side kick, split side kick. Bends at the knee, 90 degrees, very nicely. And he does swivel somewhat. He swivels out to the side, and that's pretty much it. He faces forward, or you can swivel him out to the side. That's all. So one kind of slight minus on this mold, but I mean, really, how often are you going to swivel his legs all the way around? He does twist at the waist all the way around very nicely. Arms all the way around, bends at the elbow, 90 degrees, nice swivel. The fists do not twist, but c'est la vie. Arms go out to the side, and the head twists around all the way. And he stands on his feet at just about 5 inches. A very posable figure, and in that Covert set, he did come with Slam Dance, who is in a recent video, has a very cool repaint retool of Skytread. And Trenchfoot, who was a Battle Master. Somebody pointed that out to me in the Slam Dance video, but I also saw it on TF Rookie earlier, so hey, you keep going, guys. Very valuable resource. So let's change him into his vehicle mode. And again, people really like this mold. We're going to push in his arms. We're going to open up his legs and fold in his feet. They were a little stiff there. Shut up, Logan. Flip up his chest. Bring down this piece to cover his face. Twist him at the waist. These fold over. It might be better to open up these side panels here. Let's put his arms in, which we push in. We also bend at the elbow and push in like so. So I do it all as kind of one thing, but that's where you end up. And it's also been a while since I transformed this. Close those side panels, and we flip his legs over. Make sure that those line up nicely. And we close the bottom like so. It almost wants to close for you. Make sure you push those back legs together, and the gun can go right on the top. Not a very robots in disguises thing, but still, let's zoom in, take a look at his deco. And again, very cool black Lamborghini-ish vehicle. Still can see the Autobot symbol. Good weapon storage, and this looks very good. Even from the bottom, you can't necessarily tell it's a robot in disguise. It just looks like it's weird. You know, if you normally look under cars, you would either see the whole plate Matchbox thing or Hot Wheels thing, or you would see engine parts. But yeah, that just looks like it's weird, just pushing in those side pieces. But he is a car. He's got wheels. Roll test time. And he went off to the side. Now, I have noticed that the Siege line doesn't roll as well as some of the other lines, but I've got him to go pretty smoothly. There we go. Just don't push him too hard, or he'll skid out just like that. But there you have him, an homage to G2 Sideswipe. Now called Covert Clone Sideswipe, but he's an homage. No one can tell me different. Next, we're going to jump to just 4 years ago with G2 Leadfoot. Now, G2 Leadfoot was a member of the Rotor Force in G2, and they had these little rotors. Again, in G2, they tried to come up with some gimmicks to make the line more popular. Some of them could squirt water. Some of them had laser lights that went through their swords. Some of them had little rotor engines that you would spin the rotor on and then press a button to go buzz, and then you'd lose the rotor and it would go into the vacuum cleaner and all kinds of stuff. But this is an homage to that toy with better looking weapons. He is a remold, recolor of the Mirage that came out, I think, in the 2-pack with Skywarp, the Maximal. And he definitely bears a resemblance. The face sculpt is great. Now, his Autobot symbol is not, it looks kind of I believe it might be G2-ish, or no, I'm sorry, it is the Wreck and Rule Autobot symbol, which is slightly different. The G2, it does not have that on there, but at least he doesn't have a G1. He has the Wreck and Rule because he went and he joined the Wreckers. He was actually packaged with Master Dominus, who basically like a mastodon skeleton. I have to say that the line of kind of skeletal, armorizers, I wasn't as thrilled with the skeletal ones. I know some people love them, and that is great. I'm glad you got something that you love, but not a big fan of them being, basically skeletons. But this guy, definitely like him. He's definitely a great, I'm saying definitely too much. He is a great homage to, not Mirage, to the original, but he is the repaint of Mirage. Thing that I didn't like about that Mirage, and I don't like about this one, is there's no place to plug in the shoulder missile launcher. So you can't be as Mirage-ish. I mean, you don't need to with this guy because he did not have a shoulder cannon, so he just has 2 guns, and he's like, say hello to my little friends. This is Daryl, and this is my other brother, Daryl. So he's very intimidating looking, but let's take out these weapons so I accidentally don't get shot in the face. I know, it's not really gonna happen, but I like to pretend. This missile does come off here, by the way. And let's check out some posability on this retool remold of recolor of Mirage, but a great homage to Leadfoot. And he can do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. Of course, if you let him go, it kind of falls forward, but give him a couple chairs, he'd be fine. He does have ankle swivels, super generous ones. They go like way out there. Again, some of the ankle swivels are part of the transformation, and some of them are just ridiculous, and they don't need to be that far, but I guess better too far than not far enough, something like that. But he can kick forward. He can kick back. Good height. Side kick, full split side kick, bends at the knee, 90 degrees, and he has a partial swivel. So he can go from straight forward to slightly inward or to the side. Now, the reason that it doesn't go all the way around when it's straight down is because of this design element near the top. If you hold his leg out to the side and turn it, you can have it swivel all the way around. So it does have that capability, just not when it's straight up and down. Twisting at the waist, all the way around, not a problem. Arms go all the way around, bends at the elbow, and he's got a swivel. Now the fists themselves do not turn. They do flip in, part of the transformation. The head can turn all the way around. It's a little stiff. Logan, shut up. But overall, a very cool figure. Can put him in lots of action poses. If he doesn't want to carry both his weapons, he can plug one into his back, or you can have that pointing upward for anti-aircraft purposes. You can even, if you want to be inventive, have them underneath his arms, so it's kind of like he can shoot and flip off his opponents at the same time. Well, the hands don't have that type of mobility, so you have to use that imagination that we all had to use in the 80s because there was like brick-style articulation for most of the Transformers. But all right, one more spin on the turntable of doom for Leadfoot. And now, to put him into his vehicle mode. So the reason I didn't go through the transformation for Jazz is because it's been a long time. I didn't have instructions and kind of fumbled through it. But we'll go ahead with the rest of them and show you how it's done. Just, because it adds to this particular video length. Maybe you'll watch longer. YouTube likes that. So first thing you do is you push forward the spoilers, then you pull the arms out like so, flip in the hands, then you turn them around and you give him a bow. Oh, that's another piece of articulation. He could bow slightly, but you give him a bow and then you kind of pull him up. Shut up, Logan. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. So he's like that. The legs have to turn around, which means you have to angle them out. And these pieces of the legs come off and flip up. Actually, I think it's more like that. It has been a long time since I have transformed Mirage or this guy. Well, this guy I have not, because I actually just took him out of the package. I had him sitting there for quite some time. So push these down. The wheels here flip. They are on a hinge here, and they flip out like so. So then you can push all of this stuff together on the bottom. Though it seems a little bit resistant, I managed to get it all in there. All right, next part of this thing here, and it looks like we need to, I didn't quite bring up the arms far enough. So it has these little tabs that pop out, so the arms could be way up like that, so I can flip out the wheels. He also has a little hinge thing, it would appear. You flip this forward, and then you can push the head all the way around, and then pop that back. All right, not bad. Now we take the arms and we actually flip them using these things here together, which can then pop together the spoiler. And then you flip this joint here. Might be easier to do it without putting the spoiler together first. But you flip these down, push the arms together and down, push the spoiler together. It actually shows attaching everything first and then pushing it down, but I think push down the arms first and then do it. And then you have a race car. The number 93 looks very cool. And then to intimidate the other people who are racing, you can put the gun and the missile launcher right on there so no one will cut this guy off in traffic or on the race course. So there we go. Very nice. 93 is seen. I am not seeing an Autobot symbol on him except on the bottom, which, you know, is generally hidden. But a cool looking Formula One, I guess, race car. I don't know if that's a proper terminology. Again, not a car guy, not a race guy. I just don't see races. Very cool. Let's give him a roll test. And in car mode, he is like 5 1/4 inches. I don't remember if I measured him in robot mode, but I'm not going to go back and do it because I want to get to the last, the fifth, the one that basically inspired this whole thing, because I also have a bonus. The year was 2011, and the Transformers Collectors Club put out G2 Ramjet. There he is, and there he is. Now, this particular Ramjet is a recolor, redeco of 2007's Classics Ramjet. Now, when the Classics came along, and these guys, even the Coneheads, not the tallest, about 5 3/4 inches tall, but still a very cool, and you didn't have to disassemble them entirely, way to have seeker jets. And this was only for Collectors Club members. You did have missiles that did fire. Luckily, they're not on a hair trigger, so they're not likely to go flying. But it was a great homage to the original G2 Ramjet, who was put out in purple, had a voice box or sound box, and I believe he even has some stickers on him, factory applied. But he does not show his Decepticon allegiance unless you look at the back. And the exciting thing is on the back of his wings, hard to see now, but you'll see him better later, he's got G2 Decepticon symbols. So this is the only one of these 5 homages that actually has G2 symbols properly affixed. But Classics, when they came out, very exciting time. Now, they didn't have ankle swivels, but believe it or not, could pretty much do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. The only problem was the wings would keep him from getting all the way down to the ground, but c'est la vie. He could kick forward, not very far. Kicking back, there's a little plate on the back that looks like it's supposed to flip up, but it doesn't seem to want to. I'm not going to force it, so can't really kick back that far. Side kick is good though, full split side kick. These guys bent at the knee, 90 degrees, but very nice. The most annoying thing about it is the swing just kind of is attached at one place, so it can swivel out of place very easily. But he did, speaking of swivel, have a swivel at his knee all the way around. No twisting at the waist, that's not happening, but the arms could go all the way around, though you did have to be aware of this little piece of the wing here. So you have to move it out slightly as you're moving it. It could go out to the side, though you'd lose the gun. The gun would not allow him to go straight out to the side. You could turn it and do it. Elbows, unfortunately, there does not appear to be a swivel, though part of the transformation, the shoulders can go back. I have to say these guns don't stay in the best, but still not bad. The head, let's see, it can turn side to side, but it cannot turn all the way around. But yeah, for a smaller figure and finally a very posable seeker, and then to have the G2 version from Fun Publications and their Transformers Collectors Club, it was cool to get. Now, transforming these guys was not super difficult. Take off the weapons, and basically they kind of pop apart like so. The fists would fold in, and the arms would actually just fold in under here. You would take the entire nose cone, you'd push forward on the head, pull the nose cone out, and twist it around so it could plug in right like so, right here. Then you'd twist this nose cone, you could still see his face, but then you got the nose cone. Close this up. These pieces you would want to push down so they're facing down because you're not quite done yet. Push the legs together. The wings you would fold out, flip up the feet, then just push forward on this whole back assembly. And then you could fold these pieces back So you had Ramjet as a jet. Now he does not have really actual landing gear, but you could certainly put his weapons on his wings, like so. And there you have him, Ramjet. And like the G2, he actually says as Ramjet on the side of his cockpit. And again, it's nice to see the actual G2 Decepticon symbols. So a cool homage to G2 Ramjet, even if the wings were not the best designed. And I'm not doing a roll test because, you know, don't have wheels. But 10 years later, they weren't happy with just having one homage to G2 Ramjet. And that one limited to only members of the Transformers Collectors Club. So in 2021, this is our bonus. We have the Generation Select G2 Deco Ramjet, who was a bit bigger from his air intakes to his feet, about 7 inches, and very similar looking overall. Same type of little things here, but the nose cone was a little bit different. And if you could put them next to each other, which I have, it looks like, you know, I've called him Mini-Me. But the disappointing thing is on the wings, there are G1 Decepticon symbols. Come on, guys, you can do better. Now, posability-wise, unlike the Classics repaint, he's unable to do a full toes-up Jean-Claude Van Damme. Kicking forward, not that much more. Kicking back, he's got the plate back here, but again, that doesn't seem to really move at all either. So far, not a heck of a lot of difference, except he does have ankle swivels. I don't want to forget those. Not huge ones, but they're there. As he bend at the knee with some nice, you know, destructive scraping going there. Could do a low side kick, or if you use both legs, a pretty decently high side kick. Twisting at the waist with this mold doesn't happen. It's a shame. Swiveling on the legs does happen, by the way, which is nice. Arms can go all the way around, but again, just like the other one, you need to be aware of these little flippy wing things. So you have to maneuver around those. He can go out to the side. In this case, he doesn't lose his weapon when he does that. Bends at the knee, a little bit more than 90 degrees, in fact. And he does have a swivel. The other one did not. So overall good there. And this piece here does move up and down. He could bow, but you know, that's just the top of his legs. His head can turn all the way around. So again, a very nice version of G2 Ramjet, a nice homage to him, just without the G2 symbols. You can see I didn't point out he has Decepticon symbols on the inside of his wings too, or the bottom. But transforming him, it's actually not that different. Somewhat different, but not that different. Just a little bit more refined, and he is a larger size. You flip closed his feet, and you can bring his legs together. And then we'll come back to the legs in a little bit, because I want to work on the top area here, which, like the other one, you push back on the arms a little bit, and then you can open up the top. You pull out the nose cone. The difference here is instead of this head becoming the actual nose cone, this larger nose cone flips over it. You bring that, you flip it around, and it goes into place. So not that much different. Now, the arms, you flip the fists like so. So they're like pointing the wrong direction. You open up the forearms, and you can actually collapse the arms to a smaller size. And when you're doing that, you kind of want to, there's a little like blue tab in there. It's on all the Seekers. Just gotta kind of be aware of it so you make sure that you close it properly. But that shortens them, and then just like the other one, it folds in like so. And you can move these forward and out of the way and into place. Now the legs here, instead of just pushing them in, which eventually wears down, you actually open up the legs. So this is a superior part of that. And then you take the legs and you push them forward, popping them properly into place, and then you can fold these down. Now, the only thing that looks a little awkward is when you fold these down, there's this little gap here, but not a major big deal. Make sure that the wings are properly aligned. Attach his guns under here, or you can attach them here or here, wherever you want, but I like on the wings. And there you have the newest G2 Ramjet, which again has Ramjet next to the cockpit, which is a nice touch. But again, G1 G1 Decepticon symbols on the wings. So there you have it. 5 different G2 characters that they did homages to. So in this case, 2 homages. A very cool set of toys. Again, G2, I missed out on it when it first came out. And when I started collecting in earnest back in the 90s, once again, I managed to fill in a lot of those with like one huge lot that some Transformers collector did not want anymore. He just said, I don't like G2, just gonna sell this lot. And I got like Laser Optimus Prime. I got a lot of the boxes. I got, I think, Ramjet and Jazz and just so many G2s. And I miss not having all my G2s anymore, but what can you do? But now I think these G2s are quite fun. And if you're having fun, by all means, feel free to subscribe to the channel. That would be awesome. And while you're mulling over which of these G2 homages you might want to add to your collection, actually check out this video over here, which is actually some very cool repaint that I recently reviewed. And we will see you next time. As always, have fun and good hunting.